Salutations! Welcome to Loving the Language of Literacy. My name is Sophia Lee, and today I'm doing a book talk on The Retribution of Mara Dyer by Michelle Hodkin, the third book in the Mara Dyer trilogy. Today I'm here to discuss with you this glorious book. This is my first book talk I'm doing on this channel, which is really surprising considering I started Loving the Language of Literacy to do book talks. Book talks are different from book reviews in my world. Book talks are full-on spoilery discussions where you probably will have had to read the book before actually watching this video because I don't want to spoil you, but if you want to be spoiled, keep watching. I don't know why you would, but if you're like me, you would have spoiled a lot of books yourself. And I'll warn you before I start talking in spoilery thoughts. If you haven't even heard of this trilogy, I want to tell you a little bit about it before I tell you to go away. The first book, The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer, is about an unstable 16-year-old girl named, guess what, Mara Dyer, who moves to Florida after a tragic accident in an insane asylum. She and her best friend, Claire, and her kind of boyfriend, Jude, were sleeping there overnight on a dare. It comes down on them, she wakes up in a hospital, and her family decides to pack up everything and move to Florida. When she gets to Florida, she meets a boy named Noah Shaw. All of these weird things start to happen. We don't know why, we don't know how. She thinks that by thinking about wanting someone dead, she killed them. For the entire trilogy, even at less than 100 pages left for this book, you do not know why the hell everything is going down. So you could say they're hallucinations, you could say that she's crazy, you could say that they're real. Whatever it is, that's what the whole point of reading the trilogy is, to find out. There is a lot of hype around this series, mostly because of the subject matter, the unusual premise. I believe that the kind of hype it is, it lives up to it. It is certainly not high quality literature. It's not even that high level of a YA novel. I can tell you a bunch that are better quality. But in terms of just fast-paced, good story, awesome romance, and an intriguing premise, it definitely hits all those marks. I know this is so hard if you haven't read the first book and you're watching this part of the video, but it is to not know anything going into it. You sincerely should not. You have to go into it blind because you know nothing. Besides, the whole point is the author's trying to lead you into not knowing anything because the synopsis tells you nothing. One of my friends from school literally just picked up this book. She read this, the little blurb on the flap of the book, and she was like, this tells me nothing. And this is the third book in the series, aka the longest part of the video. I read this book probably solely on recommendation from Christine Riccio. Kept hearing her talk about it. When it really got hyped up was in September/August time of the year in 2014 in the BookTalk community because the third book was going to come out in November. It's the perfect kind of book to read in the weeks leading up to Halloween. I actually got this question asked on Twitter when I tweeted out that I finished the book. Is it scary? Because a lot of people suggest around Halloween time, so you think it may be horror or scary. I will say that there are a few minor graphic descriptions. I don't know how graphic can be minor, but minor graphic descriptions. And those aren't necessarily terrifying, just maybe a little bit gruesome at times. But in terms of scare factor, it's a lot more creepy. You start looking at shadow scary than all out horror movie kind of scary. I'd renewed it like 2 times and I was like, nope, this is it. I'm gonna stop renewing this book. It was due Saturday. On Thursday, I read, I think the first book's almost 500 pages in 2 days and I loved it. I was literally finishing it on the ride to the library. When I went to the library, I picked up the second book and read it, and then I ended up moving across the country, so I didn't get to the trilogy ender until then. But originally, I planned on marathoning the entire thing up to the release date of The Retribution of Mara Dyer. I thought the Mara Dyer trilogy overall was a solid 3.5 out of 5 stars, even though obviously a half number isn't a solid number. I gave the first and third book 4 out of 5 stars. I gave the second book 2, so it kind of evened out to 3.5. It's basically the Anna the French Kiss equivalent of a thriller, mysterious young adult novel. Another thing is that these books are so freaking fast. My reading speed is proportionate to an average YA novel page and a half per minute, but with this book it's practically 2 pages per minute, or probably more than that actually. I read like a speed demon. There aren't hard words, obviously, there isn't complicated concepts, so it's really easy to just speed through and love. This is at the point when if you haven't read the first book at all, I would advise you to go away, come back when you've read it, because then we can discuss more in depth. I'm going to be discussing very lightly the first 2 books and then going in depth for the 3rd one. So goodbye, non-spoilery people! Anyways, I'm back again, obviously. The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer was a 4 out of 5 star read. It was good, but I think there was something left to be desired. This was at the point where the confusing things weren't so much confusing, but more intriguing, and you really want to know what happened, and you were wondering why she and Noah didn't have sex yet. I'm sorry to say that, but you really were. As you know, the cliffhanger leaves off with Jude being alive and being seen on a wanted poster. And this, of course, freaks Mara Dyer out because Jude tried to rape her. He's a creepy psychopath. In the first book, I fell in love with Noah. He was so nice and so sweet and so swoon-worthy, and just, can you get into bed with me, please? I felt Mara Dyer was an extremely weak character. I didn't feel much for her, except for the occasional sympathetic thoughts. But I didn't get a good feel for her character either, because she's so unstable that it's really hard to relate to her. To the point where you want to go away if you have not read the Retribution of Mara Dyer, which is the 2nd book in the trilogy. So, goodbye! Anyways, I'm back. No surprise. The Evolution of Mara Dyer is my least favorite book in the series. This was at the point where the initial hype and intrigue of the original premise kind of wore off. You knew what it was all about. You knew Mara Dyer was insane, certifiably. You just weren't as much into it. I gave the Evolution of Mara Dyer 2 out of 5 stars. I really disliked it. The plot was not nearly as good in my opinion. The events weren't as exciting or as in-your-face as they were in the 1st and 3rd books. The romance was okay. Mara and Noah are running into some serious issues, as all couples do, so the honeymoon phase was pretty much over. Mara's illness or hallucinations, or whatever you want to call it, is getting worse and worse. When she got carted off to Horizons, I just thought that it was going downhill. I always knew that Mara was having trouble, obviously, but it just seemed kind of over the top and kind of like a cop-out, and I just disliked it a lot. Of course, at the very end of it, we think Noah dies. That was a huge shocker. It kind of felt almost like in Catching Fire, that whole moment when Gale tells Katniss there is a District 12, kind of felt like that when Mara woke up in a hospital room and someone told that Noah didn't survive. So finally, if you have not read the Retribution of Mara Dyer, or the Evolution of Mara Dyer, or the Unbecoming of Mara Dyer, you really want to go away right now, because I'm going to spoil the heck out of you. Goodbye! It was terrible. I know a lot of people were so disappointed and thought it was anticlimactic. I really couldn't have any expectations for this novel besides in comparison to the first 2 books, because we have no clue what's going to happen. That's one thing Michelle Hodkin can do, and that is plot twists. Everything's turned upside down in a heartbeat. I didn't really have any theories or really big expectations of what would happen. I wanted Mara and Noah to get together, which they ended up doing, so that was good. But besides that, there really wasn't anything I could theorize about, and I think other people set themselves up for failure, thought it would be different or better or just something else. The Retribution of Mara Dyer picks up with Mara at Horizons, and she's being interrogated by a lovely doctor. She stabs him after finding a voice recording of Jude saying that Noah was alive and that he helped Jamie and Claire get out. She took a doctor's scalpel and started gouging people's eyes out. It was crazy. It went down. Oh my god. All of us did not think Noah was dead because, first of all, a whole other book. Second of all, he's the male protagonist of the story, so he really can't die. For a while, Michelle Hodkin had me convinced that Noah wouldn't show up until the very last second. We went a good 300 without seeing Noah again. I was surprised at Michelle Hodkin's decisions to kind of push him away and put Mara in the spotlight. I thought that was a good choice. The first 100 pages of that novel was whoa. Literally every Goodreads update I have is, I'm so confused, what the hell is going on, this is not real. It was just WTFs after WTFs, and I was thinking Not seriously, but I was considering DNFing it because of how lost I was, and it was not in a good way. From page 1 to 150, it was really slow, and I wasn't engaged. After that, it got more intriguing. It kind of redeemed itself and got back the qualities that I so much enjoyed in the Unbecoming of Mara Dyer. Each book in the whole trilogy ends with a climax, except for Retribution. So it kind of is building up again from the second book's climax, and I really enjoyed that. After the 300-page mark, this is 470 pages, I just flew through it. I loved it. There were so many things happening in such a short amount of time. It was just flip, flip, flip. I thought Mara Dyer, because of her condition, but also because of just being alone, she got so much stronger, and I enjoyed that quality because she was so weak in the first two novels. Like I said, I didn't have a good grasp on her character, but in this one, she was so unapologetic and so ruthless and so psychotic. But I thought that was such a good thing because she's finally fighting back. That flight or fight response is finally being a fight, and she's going to take down the man, leave him at a rest stop with his throat cut. I was of course really sad that Noah and her were separated because I love their dynamic. They were designed as yin and yang, and I think they're perfect as yin and yang because they reflect each other, they help each other, they're better people when they're with each other, and it's just so cute. The reunion itself was anticlimactic in my opinion because of everything else that was going down during that time, that them being reunited wasn't as well done as it could have been, and I expected different reactions from both of them, more like running into each other's arms Titanic moment than a you should kill me, you should kill me. In terms of Mara herself, she really developed as a character. She's been carved by her experience. She was this perfect marble block before the asylum went down, and every single time something happens, it's like a sculptor was just putting that hammer to the marble, and it was cracking and being destroyed. Now the marble is beautiful because she's a new person, and she's so much better because of her experiences. I thought it was extremely interesting to do two point of views for the Retribution of Mara Dyer. It felt almost like an Allegiant cop-out, and that's what I felt, was that Noah's voice wasn't as strong as it could have been, but I still very much enjoy reading from both of their perspectives. He didn't seem that much different from Mara, but then when they were together and it was those alternating chapters between him and her, you could see their differences, but you could see their similarities, and they really melded together into something beautiful. Powers were still unclear to me. I love the study of genes and like different scientific fiction theorizing of them, but the way it was executed was pretty unclear to me. Nevertheless, they were kick-ass and awesome besides the side effect thing. But Jamie with his manipulative powers, it seems just like him. He was helping them so much. But I didn't feel as much as I probably could have for Jamie, and when he almost left, it was just breaking my heart, and I didn't like him as much afterwards. I don't even remember who Stella is, and this was only 2 months ago that I read it. After I got a new grasp on this Stella character and her powers, I just liked them. She didn't seem very helpful. She seemed kind of like a filler person. And Noah, on the other hand, the fact that he was destined for good. There's this whole saying, which everyone knows, is evil made or born. That was the same thing with him, is good made or born. For Mara and Noah's fate, and biologically and physically, no, they were born to be good and evil. I have to admit, confusing. They were going between the whole thing in England and her from being a little girl, and I'm still so unclear as to whether that was actually Mara or Mara's grandma or Noah's mom. I'm still so confused. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I still don't. Anyone who's finished and read the book and the entire trilogy want to explain it to me because I don't understand it. The Noah-Mara dynamic was so interesting to see unfold, and I love them together, and it just enforces why they should be together. I know David Shaw said that Noah was just attracted to her because it was chemically, but for me it was just true love. I'm sorry, I get really sappy. The letters were probably my favorite part of the entire book. There are the 2-3 chapters where everything is explained, not necessarily in terms of the whole genes, but in terms of who these two characters are, and they were so lost, and it's so validating to see that you've read so many pages and that they finally have an answer. The romance left a bit to be desired, and the epilogue at least, because they both developed so much, and I almost think that they should have split off. It would have been heartbreaking, but kind of nice to see them both stand on their own. He's desperate for her, and she's desperate for him. When they resumed back to normalcy, it didn't seem fulfilling enough as when they were fighting for their lives, obviously, because when you're fighting for your lives, you're making decisions that you might normally not have made. This is getting a little personal for them, but I loved the sex sequence. Young adult novels are always closed-door sex, but you never know exactly when that door is going to close. Whether it's making out with an alluding to sex, or full-on, you know they're having sex, but the word's never actually said. It was so beautiful. Around 20 pages, which is really 20 chapters, of just a paragraph each from Noah and Mara. It was almost like, in my head, I could see these two cameras just paneling around them in this moment of passion. It was so rewarding as a reader to see them finally do it, because it was not only just a physical marker in their relationship, it was also a marker of they've done it, this is the end, thank God it's over, and just how they can move on with their lives from there, and I really enjoyed that. In conclusion, I thought that the entire series was a 3.5 out of 5 star series, definitely fun. The book itself was a completely validating ending. I loved how it went down, actually, how they're going to go to college, and it's going to be Daniel and her and him. I'm losing names now. I really enjoyed that decision. I know a lot of people didn't, but I really thought it was a good one. Right now, I'm going to post different elements of story right here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you had a good time. Tell me in the comments below whether you've read any of the books, whether you're thinking about reading them. If you want to discuss with me what went down, just remember to tell me that there's spoilers. And